Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican, running for mayor, and the goal is to get the RCMP in here unless I could do it without becoming the mayor. I want to show you today what you do when you realize the door's closing on you and you're in panic mode. I want to make sure when I went down this road what Darren Brown laid out to me on the fraud in Abbotsford City and who the players were, that there's enough for the RCMP and criminal investigators to go at the players that were behind. The RCMP knew when Henry tried to end my life and he used Keelan Olenoff to threaten me to drop the lawsuit and videos. Mike DeYoung and Ed Fast were the two to go to right now after Henry used the Abbotsford police chief and bought his way out of a criminal ring, of a criminal hit and run, an attempted murder, using his connections. Darren Brown made it clear, his Henry's son, how powerful his dad was, how many elite players were behind him and whatever, and what he could control in Abbotsford and all the business deals and what he set up for years. But Henry broke the law. He started threatening people, then he took advantage of the city. I made it clear that the whole of Abbotsford First is how Henry won the decisions. Let's go back. Remember when George Perry went to Mike DeYoung's breakfast at Roseland Cafe when Andrew Wilkins was supposed to get the leadership? George Perry put a brown bag over his head and cut the eyes out when Simon Gibson was there and said, Mike's supposed to get it, Mike's supposed to get it. We don't want Andrew Wilkinson. So who's missing in this picture yet is Daryl Plunkus. Plunkus is not here yet. Henry's got to get Plunkus. You look at these four people, these four rats panicking on this poor little kid. We have to be clear that it is obvious now Pierre Poilievre had found the truth on Ed Fast. He kicked Ed Fast out of the Conservatives before the Liberals see it. You can see Ed's behavior. You don't flip your chair on your head. You don't mock your Conservatives. You don't support a Liberal. It is clear that Alex Mitchell, the Chamber of Commerce, endorsed Mike DeYoung, and the whole business association endorsed the Mike DeYoung. So I want to make it show that these four people, no matter what, are going to try to get Mike elected. We got to make sure there's enough there that Mike can be charged by the Elections Canada and be removed, and now federal investigations on election loading. Dave Sadu is a sitting city council. He was the one, and him and his dad at UFE blocked me to load Ross Siemens. He ran Ross Siemens. He is a sitting city council, and Simon Gibson is. Today and yesterday and all week, Mike DeYoung's signs are all illegal. It's the council that are loyal to Mike that are making sure bylaw doesn't go take down the signs. Dave Sadu and his dad runs his Capriccio newspaper. It's supposed to be the four leaders, the four rats of Abbotsford. I call them the three-headed snakes, but you always know the rat, there's another one that pokes his head up. There's always another one. That's why the RCMP, when they're investigating, they always know there's another one. You always need another one. These four people, I'll exclude George Perry. George Perry wasn't involved in it. Henry's trying to bounce off of him with Mike DeYoung. They need to load for the floods. To get that $500 million. I made it clear what Darren Brown showed you. Ron Funke diverse, they need to know that. It doesn't matter if you're loading Mike DeYoung. Mike DeYoung has used the Chamber of Commerce, and Alex Mitchell, let me tell you, she was Henry's economic officer at the city. She's loyal to Henry Brown. She is a federal Liberal. She's a federal Liberal. That's why she's supporting Mike. She went as the Chamber of Commerce in the endorsement. Dave Sadu is running the Capriccio with his dad. He's a sitting council. He owes Mike. Mike threw a party to endorse him to council. This is what they were doing to control Abbotsford. But you can see why Henry pulled this stunt off with Ed Fast and Mike DeYoung. I believe now that they have lost the control of Abbotsford Police when the new chief probably figured it all out, that you threatened Mr. Pelican, you used the task force, and now we're going to go after you. You were using the police to win the elections. So now they have to flush themselves out. I'm about the law. Make it clear. What happened to my life and to my residents and fraud in the city and the election loading, I'm about the law. I'm about going after Henry full tilt and Mike DeYoung and Ed Fast till the criminal code takes its place and they're charged and their assets investigated. This is not going to save Henry Brown. When Henry's son made it clear what was taking place, I went to the RCMP so I could make sure it was all documented. Here's the danger of what Dave Sadu and Simon Gibson did. If a Liberal or the Conservative candidate takes stronghold of Abbotsford now because of this dirty setup, they'll strap Abbotsford. I'll have to beg them as mayor to please look away from these two, and we're going to do these four and do criminal investigations. That's the danger of going behind a candidate. But Mike de Jong has cheated. And they know that Henry owns the whole city. He did it with electoral officer Gabriel, and you can see his signs. I want to make sure the Liberals and the NDP and the Conservatives see. So when they go to court, we're going to proceed this, even if the Conservatives win. We're going to proceed it all the way. When you go to court, there's enough now. You know that the sitting city council, Dave Sadu, who is loaded by Mike de Jong and runs this newspaper, is basically running these candidates over the other one. Dave Sadu knows Mike de Jong trademarked it, the Conservative logo and the Conservative colors, and they're loading it. Mike de Jong's used to Chamber of Commerce, the Fraser Valley Indo Association. He's cheated on Mill Lake, you saw that. And he's cheated on all his signs through Abbotsford. Mike de Jong threw an illegal party at the Corona to endorse this man. Now this man owes Mike. Mike's like, I got you in, Dave, you owe me. We need the law. We need the RCMP. It is clear that I made it clear that there was no conspiracy. Henry was running Abbotsford and controlling. Henry stands to lose millions of dollars and go to jail. So let me probably tell you in my opinion. He probably told Ed, you listen to me, you piece of shit, Ed. I go, you go. Darren Brown said, when this started, if my dad goes down, they're all going down with my dad. They'll never undermine my dad or sell my dad out. When the RCMP hit you, they're going to cop. I saw Darren Brown cop and start squealing like a little pig. I saw other people that Henry don't know who are behind the scenes squealing. So I've never seen an attack on such a candidate because it's not about the candidate, it's about the pure money. You know Ed Fast is going to go under federal investigations of why attempted murder hot. Ed, I believe, joined this thing because Henry said, look at Ed, you lobbied that bloody money for that bus loop. And so did Henry, and so did Mike de Jong. And you know, when I committed all that fraud with my son in the council, if I go, you go. Nobody's above the law. A judge said, Mr. Pelican, nobody can use the law, nobody can bend it, and nobody's above it. But here's what the plan is. They're going to try to load Mike, then ward him over, and try to get him in as a federal MP, and then halt off all investigations. You can see it clearly. And now Dave Sadu, the sitting council, after Simon Gibson told Pierre Poilievre, Simon Gibson made it clear to Pierre Poilievre that he should apologize to Mike de Jong. Now Dave Sadu, the Capriccio, he goes and makes statements, and as the city council, he knows that he's been told today and all day yesterday to get Mike de Jong's signs down, and he's not. This is helping Mike de Jong over all the other candidates and over the NDP and the Liberals and the Conservative candidate. There's enough there for elections candidate to go after them all now and to remove Mike de Jong. They got to throw it out. So now you'll see them, they got to get Daryl Pluckus probably involved. I don't think John Van Doggen will going to do it. You can see the panic mode. Henry lost control of the Abbotsford police, and you can see them, all four of them, claiming they're business leaders in Abbotsford. Business leaders? Mackenzie Bogg poisoned a lot of people and they got deadly sick. There was no business Henry Brown. There was no Mike de Jong or Ed Fast or Henry Brown or George Perry with all them people begging. The Cooper's Farm, 6,000 people got told where to go. There was no Ed Fast, Mike de Jong or Henry Brown or George Perry because they were covering for Henry. All the decisions on Ron Funk's property and it being the CEO of Diverse and Henry being a partner, there was no leaders there for that, was there? There was no leaders there to come out and address these things. There weren't. Henry Brown was the engine, Darren Brown showed, collaborating. Henry balked these guys in the corner, and they figure if they can get Mike in as the MP, Mike de Jong will be able to clear it and get rid of this scandal. It ain't. I'm adamant that it doesn't even call for the federal Conservatives or the Liberals. It calls for them federal leaders to say the RCMP got to go in there and they got to go after shitbox Ed Fast. And what Brad Viss is doing, Brad Viss knows that he's got to play the game or Ed Fast will take him down. And so will Henry Brown and so will Mike de Jong. So rather than Brad Viss stand up and say, look it, what these four shithole people are doing is trying to load Mike de Jong so he can get in to clean all the embezzlement and fraud that Henry was doing with Abbotsford City Councils and using the Abbotsford Police. Brad Viss can't do that. Pierre Poilievre can clearly see the pounding Brad Viss is taking is shut your mouth, Brad. Henry blackjacked him in the corner and owns him because you do not stand away from your party. Brad Viss is the type of man that goes to a restaurant and stands there while somebody beats his wife and his kid. Oh yeah, just beat him up. I'm Brad Viss, just beat him up. I like that kind of stuff. You're supposed to defend, even the Liberals defend their candidates. They can clearly see what they're doing. So why is this move done in the Capritra? Henry's concoction, and their concoction is, if we can get this in the Capritra, we can get the Indo community, the South Asians behind Mike because we're so advising. Let me advise you. Henry Brown stripped all the South Asian of building permits up to 2 years where he rushed Ed Fast's brand new house Darren Brown showed it. Henry Brown removed the Abbotsford South Asians and the Indos from taking on the police force into discrimination. Henry Brown called my neighbor a dumb brown Hindu cow in order to get a job site. He's trying to use the South Asians now and say, listen, let's get Mike and we can work together. Let's not get Mike. Let's do what the law requires us. Let's get the RCMP, but the first thing we got to make sure there's enough evidence for the Liberals, the NDP, and the PPC party to say, let Mike cheat. Let Mike cheat. We'll go before the court. There's more than enough now to take Mike de Jong because we know the city councils that were Henry's, the majority of them Abbotsford first, are now loading and collaborating with Mike. Les Barkman's the only one innocent of it. And you know Dave Sadu is not telling bylaw to get the signs down. Simon Gibson ain't, Ross Siemens ain't, and everything. At the end of the day, Ross, I want to make it clear to you. Your dad came and saw me because he knows this takes the RCMP and it takes our courts. And at the end of the day, your dad was worried about losing his assets and going to jail. Henry Brown ain't going to save you, Ross. Ed Fast ain't going to save you. And you can see Mike de Jong. All the leaders of the party have pulled out of Abbotsford. David Eby has distanced himself. Pierre Poilievre hasn't come to Abbotsford. They all have distanced themselves because of Henry Brown, and you can see it. So Henry Brown's running around telling you he's still got all these connections. You can see the distancing taking place, Ross Siemens, and you can see it. And why you distance yourself as David Eby and as MPs and as leaders of the party, because you know there's a federal investigation and somebody's looking. The RCMP don't allow anybody to stand on the stage and do this. Henry Brown tried to end my life. These three men, except for George Perry. George Perry wasn't involved. These two shit kickers, Ed and Mike, used their position to collaborate and together to help Henry Brown. Then they used their positions, knowing Henry controlled the Abbotsford City Councils and the police department, to load his job sites and his lands. Henry Brown deserves what every criminal deserves with his team, and his team will squeak, and they'll squeal. Jail. And jail is a massive sentence for stealing out of taxpayers, off the taxpayers, taking advantage of the city chair for his, exploiting for his funds, and benefiting off of it, abusing the city chair to threaten people, abusing the city chair to load elections, and now abusing the chair even more. Ross Siemens, it is clear that under your commanding, never mind Dave Sadu and Abbotsford First, that you're supposed to order them signs down on Mike de Jong with Gabriel, and you didn't. When Darren Brown took me by my hand, Henry's own son, he connected Ed's daughters to me, he connected Mike's family to me, he connected them all to me so I could work behind the scenes with the RCMP and say, I'll stand on the world stage, Henry goes to jail. Braun, let me make it clear from you to Mr. Pelican, Mike de Jong is never going to become an MP. He can cheat his way in, and we know it. We know what the Chamber did. We know what the Fraser Valley Indo Association, all your business partners got to do, the financial institutions, Ron Funka Diverse, Dave Sadu, and that. You could cheat yourself in. But this is a democracy. The Liberals will defend it, the NDP are going to defend it, and the Conservatives are going to defend it. But above all, the law has to defend it, and they have to defend it massively because you got into organized threats and not working for a living. Organized threats for your land deals, and your own son, Braun, told. And you can see why Ed Fast has been running around supporting Mike de Jong. He believes the only way If we can get Mike in, we could cover it all. That's a far-fetched idea. It's kind of like me running for the police chief and say, if I can get in the police chief, I can clean all the gangs. Once I'm a police chief, I can get them all cleaned. They've been smoking too much wacky tobacco, I think, every one of them. But Brad Viss, Pierre Poilievre's got to really come hard down on Brad Viss and say, Brad, you know, probably you just finish this term, you get elected, and then we'll kick you out and call a by-election after we see what the real election brings if we got a majority. And I believe that's what will happen to Brad Viss, because Brad Viss stood by and did it. Brad Viss can't say no to it. He's in too deep. So the question to Brad Viss is, what do you owe, Brad? What do you owe them men that you can't stand and defend your party, your leader, and your candidate? What do you owe Henry Brown? But I tell you what I know you owe Ed Fast. So Dave Sadu, this is a big mistake. One of the largest ones you did. Your dad and your mom pleaded on me when you made the mistake at UFB, threatening me to load Ross Siemens. But this one, you're a sitting council. You know Mike DeYoung signs are illegal. You know the Chamber of Commerce and what Mike has done is illegal. And now you go and you pee on the Liberals and you pee on the NDP and you pee on a candidate. That man's in. Are the Liberals in? They're going to go after you and do audits faster than everybody. You're being used, Dave. And this is the process of what took place. We need the RCMP, Abbotsford residents. We need the RCMP, and we need them. You can see clearly why we need the RCMP. Braun broke the criminal code. Braun has to be picked up. These guys are going to defend him. Braun's got him blackjacked over the wall, and they're going to defend him rigorously. Like Ed Fast's wife said, my husband owes Henry. He'll never sell Henry out. He'll never call Henry out on anything. I'm live. Abbotsford, British Columbia.